All right, all right. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Pulse Beat podcast, sponsored by Cardio Miracle. We are so excited to have Tracey Stroup with us today. She is associated with several different organizations, but with the Get Healthy stores, and we'd love to pick her brain a little bit, see what she's up to. We'd first like to start with the disclaimer that neither of us are diagnosing or or treating diseases over here. We just talk passionately about health and wellness and Cardio Miracle, of course. So, Tracey, how you doing this morning?
Doing pretty well. Thanks for having me on. Love the product, love the whole company. So I was introduced here, I think, probably 4 or 5 years ago by Dr. Judy, and still around. So super great to watch you guys grow in the industry and all the lives you're changing. So thanks for all you're doing.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much for that. And we definitely love Dr. Judy. We love to have her on whenever we can and just hear her talk about how foolish everyone is for not drinking Cardio Miracle. So,
Getting her on the show is like nailing down Jello, though.
yeah, exactly. Or a gnat, right?
That's
Just
right.
so no, she's unbelievable. We really love her, and we are so excited to hear about what you're working on these days, and would love to kind of dive into that head first. And we, if you want to do your own disclaimer, but we Cardio Miracle, we're just passionate about health and wellness, and passionate about what other people are doing. Like I told you earlier, our company goal is to save 100 million lives and or the hearts of mankind. And so we've got big goals and big aspirations, but what are you working on this year in 2026 coming up?
Well, culture changing. I think that's what everyone's going to be working on, and I think we're 6 years past the pandemic. And I think, the culture has shifted, and we are seeing disease rise from those that, chose a particular pathway with a jab. And we need to be in front of that, more preventative, more have a better offense than a defense. So I agree. I love your goal and mission of changing 100 million lives, because it's possible, but people have to choose it. So just to go back, I was introduced to your brand through Dr. Judy, and I had the honor of meeting John. We actually went to the Tucker Carlson event together. So had an honor of meeting him in person there, and the rest of your team, which was great. I do use the product. I use it personally every single morning. So, Dr. Judy can be proud of me. I use it as part of my workout recovery. And it's just something that I do for myself, and what everyone should do for themselves, because it's loaded with nutrition. So I then convinced John and your company to onboard the product onto the catalog for the Get Healthy store, which that's an online tech company that helps doctors build branded stores for their brand and for their patients and clients to come in and be able to get quality products in a safe space with a doctor they know. So that's a really big thing, because you never really know where stuff is coming from. So we were honored to have you guys join our catalog, and you've been doing fabulous. Our practitioners love you. And so this is just the next step in our generation together. Me personally, I still own my telehealth company. I have 4 practitioners that work for me. I own my academy where I educate the layperson as well as the practitioner on integrative and functional care. And this past year, I launched a new brand called Quarterbacking Cancer, which has exploded. And it just goes to show you, Josh, where the industry is going.
Wow, that's amazing. And so how has that been received so far, that with the kickoff and all?
Well, it's been great. I called it Quarterbacking Cancer for a few reasons, and I'll just tell the story real quick. My best friend, who is also my assistant, my executive assistant in my company, she got diagnosed with breast cancer in September of 24. At that time, I was at an event in Arizona, and I was sitting in this event watching a speaker talk about breast cancer. And it was Dr. Jen Simmons. She's a wonderful surgeon, now integrative oncologist. She has moved over to our side and has really, truly understood that the way that the cancer culture is moving, how they diagnose, how they scare people, how they rush people, she just really felt for women it needed a slowdown. So here I am sitting in this auditorium listening to her talk about breast cancer and the way that it's mistreated. And my friend is texting me that she just got this diagnosis, and there's God right in the middle of it all. And so it's kind of how the journey started. From that point, we noticed the mismanagement and miscare, the fear that's associated with that term when you get diagnosed, and how dramatically they rush you into decisions when people just don't even understand the language. And it was a huge turning point for me because I never wanted to be a cancer expert. No one's born a cancer expert. You're forced into it. And I was drastically pushed. And over the months that we struggled to get the right testing, the right protocols in place, we had to research everything. There was stuff that was in products that people that have that diagnosis can't take. There was stuff that wasn't in products that we needed to find. There was just so much stuff, which complementary modalities, peptides, immunotherapy, conventional treatment, everything that's the whole culture is set up to terrify you. And if you don't choose conventional, what Dr. Nathan Goodyear calls the unholy trinity, right? Surgery, radiation, chemo. If you don't choose that, then you get put over here in this bucket where you're doing nothing, or people think that you're automatically not going to make it because you didn't choose this unholy trinity. And we chose the natural path out of the gate. But it was a huge protocol to put together. We had to research everything. The financial burden was unbelievable. And then the time commitment to your IV treatments, your HBOT, the peptides, the injections, the mistletoe, everything. And finally, one day I was like, God, this is impossible for any man to do. And that's when God was like, that's right. That's why he does everything. And I was like, oh, he's like, all I need you to do is quarterback it. And that's where this whole concept of quarterbacking cancer came. And so I put together a program where we actually help people come in and find the best care possible. No judge zone. They can come in after treatment, during treatment, with no treatment. They come in, we get them set up on supplements. We get them set up on a nutrition plan. We get them set up on peptides. We get them set up on mistletoe. We guide them to any repurposed meds that they need. We guide them to integrative oncologists like the Williams Cancer Institute, Dr. Nathan Goodyear, Jason Williams, Jen Simmons, Sean Devlin, like all the people that are out there that nobody knows about because the cancer culture over here with the unholy trinity wants to squish it. They don't want it known. So what I do is quarterback this care plan. You're still in our care, but if I need to hand off and point you into a different direction, I will. So that's kind of where this whole concept was born. And in it are products like yours because they're so vital in these care plans for people. And we can talk more about that and where Cardio Miracle fits in. But the culture needs to change. I don't know if you've ever experienced something like that with a loved one, but it is really devastating to watch. People get pushed, shoved, and basically scared into making a decision that they don't fully understand. They don't know what questions to ask. They don't know how to navigate the system. And then if you move outside of the system, you're on your own. There's nobody out there giving you the pathway. So that's where I was like, I'll do it. I'll quarterback it.
That's amazing. I love the terms quarterbacking, handing off, all of that, because you look at the quarterbacks on any kind of team. I don't care if it's NFL, whatever, CFL, whatever the different organization is. They are basically the leaders. They are the captains. They're the person that is in charge. So yes, actually, we didn't even talk about this, but yeah, in 2009, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I had 26 lesions on my brain is what they told me. Half my body was numb. I was going blind. It was really scary. And my father introduced me to nitric oxide therapy in 2009. And I refused. I refused to get on all of the treatment. Literally, they wanted to destroy my immune system to rebuild it synthetically. And they said, this is the only thing that will help you. And my dad came in and he said, stop everything. I was 24 at the time. And he's like, stop everything. We're going a different route. And he took me home. And I was scared. I thought it was a death sentence. within 6 months of eating whole and organic fruits and vegetables, getting on a nitric oxide therapy, and also getting on a greens therapy. We'd had a product called Core Greens. Within 6 months, they couldn't find a lesion on my brain. And they said the lens must have been dirty, or I must have been faking my symptoms. so,
Oh my gosh,
and
they
so
gassed you to boot.
it's scary. Yeah, it's scary what happened. My neurologist, he wouldn't even speak to me. Like, it was, I was like totally put in this black box, if you will. And it was scary, but my dad, bless him, he came to my rescue, and he's like, we're doing this, go hard on this nitric oxide product. And I believe it gave me a second chance at life. So I've definitely been there. But I was at a conference recently where they said, we want you all to raise your hands if you've been affected by some sort of cancer in your family or your friend. And every single person raised their hand at the conference. It was wild. So my heart goes out to you for your best friend and your executive assistant, and I hope that she is continuing to win that battle.
She is, with no help from the conventional side. Now, let me just preface this with, I do believe that there are some good oncologists on the allopathic side. They want their goal's the same. They want people to get well, but it's the racket of the industry that surrounds it, right? So the word cancer, when you get that diagnosis, comes with an automatic death sentence and an automatic idea in your head that it's going to be a torturous endeavor. When you had your diagnosis of MS, I'm sure you were like, holy man, what this means, but you probably didn't think I'm going to die. You probably didn't think like, oh, I'm going to be super sick and vomiting and all of that stuff, like with my treatment protocol. But when you get the cancer diagnosis, that's what they think. And so that in itself creates its own level of PTSD and trauma. And then you go through treatment in the conventional. And their idea, and I always say this about allopathic, they think you have too many organs and not enough pharmaceuticals. They want to cut things out. They want to give you pharmaceuticals in the form of chemo. Basically there's targeted chemo, which is a little bit better, but there's this broad spectrum chemo that just kills everything. And it's very much a kill mentality. And it was, when they declared the war on cancer, I think in the 60s, that's where this whole term came from. But what we have to remember with cancer is that they are our cells. They're sick and mutated and unable to produce the right amount of ATP and mitochondrial function so that they can divide and be healthy cells. So these are our cells. Why would we declare war on ourselves? And so the kill mentality is very much in the cancer culture. And so they tell these people, like, you have to have chemo, and then you have to have this removed. And then once it's removed, we got to do chemo and radiation just in case we missed anything, because they know that God's design for the body is amazing. So when you have a tumor, Josh, it actually signals the rest of the body that there's cancer around and that your body needs to put up a defense against these cells. So that's pretty amazing. But once you remove the tumor, the signal goes away. They know that in the oncological section, so they give you chemo just to capture any other cells. So my point being, we have come so far past that unholy trinity. The allopathic oncology has to catch up. I mean, immune therapy is on the rise, nutrition therapy, IV therapy, hyperbaric chamber, all of the DNA splicing of the T cells to target specific cells in the body is on the rise. Why are they not doing that on the other side? I mean, what they do at the Williams Cancer Institute is amazing. Amazing scientifically researched and backed therapies that you will not see in the allopathic, because it's like they are 20 years behind where this functional and integrative is going. The problem is the money, right? There's no money in healthy people. There's no money if your cancer gets better, and we can't keep you scared and keep you on chemo and keep you on radiation and tell you in 5 years it's going to come back. So you have to continue your mammogram, and you have to continue this colonoscopy, and you have to continue these PET scans over and over. And why are all these tests just loaded with radiation? Why are they loaded with things that we know could cause more cancer? So you have to put your thinking tank, right? You have to get in there and really sit back. And the biggest thing that I tell people in the cancer culture is Stop, slow down. God is not in a hurry. When he formed you in the womb, he knew this. This was coming. Okay, so if he knows and he goes before you and beside you and behind you, then he's not surprised by this diagnosis. Neither should we be. And so we need to stop and pray, seek ye first, and all these things will be given to you. Let's seek the knowledge of God first. And then we can make some decisions, whatever those decisions are, but make an informed decision. Find out what's available in the integrative and in oncology. Find out what these people are saying about repurposed meds. Find out about supplementation that can help with your mitochondrial fueling, that can help with your stem cell regeneration. Find out. The problem is we're supposed to give people informed consent. First, do no harm is the oath that all these doctors take. That comes second to informed consent. And when they're informing these people, they're not telling them that the survival rates are based on only a certain section of people, only for a short period of time. It's like, it's like studies on, vaccine safety. Those things, they don't tell you that the Hib was only studied for 5 days, but that was their safety test. So these are things that people don't know. And so when it comes to cancer culture, they're at a disadvantage because they are not informed. And when they're not informed, you will make decisions out of fear. If I yell, run, there's an intruder in your house, how do you know where to run? What if you run into him, right?
Yeah.
So you got to flick the light on. Even if you know there's a scary monster, at least you know where he is and you can run the opposite direction or in a different direction. So when it comes to this diagnosis, they know that the world's at a disadvantage because they have bestowed this word as the worst possible diagnosis that you can get. And I can honestly tell you, I know people that have had metastatic cancer that live a healthy and natural lifestyle that are still alive decades later. You do not have to die from this. You do not. So that's a big thing that people need to hear today.
That's amazing. I love it. And it kind of goes without saying, but yeah, I love what kind of the divine nature of what you're doing. And obviously we were talking about the Jesus, the Jesus right above you. And so with this whole process of going through a cancer diagnosis and fighting and being aware of what the differences are, that you're not going the traditional route, let's say, how much of a divine nature have you felt or seen in communicating with your friend on this, with this treatment that you're going with?
Absolutely. So God has to be in the center of all things, right? So for me, it's Jesus. I'm Christian. And like I said, this was direct from him. I didn't want to do this type of work because it is extremely difficult to watch people go through, the process of healing, because it's not always linear. It is possible, but it's not linear. People get sick. They get sicker. They get a flu. They have some regression. Numbers don't always go the way we want them to on blood work. But I always tell people, your body takes 2 years to fully regenerate everything. New skin, new hair, new organs, 2 full years, Josh. So if today you made a decision to change your life for the better, you're going to eat right, think right, move right, poop right, pray right, do all those things right. In 2 years, you're going to be a whole new you. You're going to have all new cells, all new hair, you can have new hair, Josh. So like all of these things, right? I mean, you could have like a I'm just kidding. But think about it. Think about what you could be in 2 years. But society has taught us that immediate gratification is how it is. And if you don't see results quickly, you're done. But what happens in the Bible? What does God show us in the Bible? How long did Sarah wait to have a baby? What about Paul and his ministry? He didn't convert and be like, oh, I'm going out and starting a ministry. No, it was 3 years. God did not release him, right? We have waited for the Savior. It's been 2,000 plus years now. We're still waiting, but we know that it's coming. And so having a mindset and eyes on Jesus and knowing that patience is a fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, all of these things are a fruit. And so it's super important that, we abide in those fruits and that self-control is at the bottom, right? It's not about controlling all these things. It's about letting go. It's about saying, I can't, but you can, God. And I can't is not a failure, it's a surrender. So people that have their eyes on Christ, that have a good mindset, that understand that healing is patient, healing is kind, and mostly to yourself, right? That to give your body time to regenerate, to give your body time to detoxify, to give your body time to nutrify, they have better results. They have a better mindset, a better outcome. It's proven, and a better sustainability because it's hard to heal. I'm sure you wanted to be like clear of all your lesions right away, right? You wanted to be like,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
good. How long did it?
Yeah.
How long did it take till you got the all clear?
So it took, for me, it was, my diagnosis was actually January 1st, 2009. And then I went and got another follow-up MRI in May of 2009. So it took 6 full months, but or 5 months. So for me, that was fast for me. But then I decided to get in the world of strongman competing because I'm an extremist. And so I gained 200 pounds and I got up to almost 500. I was 480 pounds. And then in 2021, I decided that with God's help, obviously, that I was going to take my health into my own hands. And with Cardio Miracle, I wanted to be a product of the product. And I've lost 200 pounds in 3.5 years. So that's how long it's taken
Slow and
me. And
steady. Yeah.
yeah, 1,700 days. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a process, but there is not a day that goes by now that I don't get at least 12,500 steps, and that I do 30 to 50 push-ups a day, and I do 12,500 steps a day.
Awesome.
And Cardio Miracle is at the cornerstone of my entire transformation. So I am a whole new person, and look at my pictures. It's wild to see the difference.
Mhm. But you did it and you had patience for it, right? And it's still continuing. Health is a lifelong journey. It's not like this destination that we get to or like, I'm healthy, now I can go back to eat
Yeah.
cake. That's not how it works. Unfortunately, it would be nice, but it's not.
Yeah.
And we're bombarded every day by these toxins and chemtrails and glyphosate and whatever's happening around us, toxic people. You get on social media, you might as well just lose all joy because joy dies faster on social media than any place. So it's important that you have your eyes on God, that you believe in a higher power, that you know that He is for you. And that is always solid. He never changes. And so that is our reassurance that if you have belief that way, and I have to tell you, probably 99.9% of the people that come into my practice or leave my practice have belief in God. Um, and those are the people that do best. It's not that people that don't won't make it. I'm not saying that, but to have faith in something beyond your own power and your own control is in some way freeing because then I think people blame themselves a lot for things. Yes, there are choices that we make that get us into unhealthy situations, but this blaming of like, I can't believe this happened to me and what did I do wrong is really big in the cancer culture. And what I tell people is it's not about what you did wrong. It's about the choices you make that you can do these things right moving out of here. And here's some simple things you can do. And it's game changing for them. And so we try not to get them to look back too much, but to look forward into, okay, who do you want to become? And this is an opportunity, just like for you, came with a diagnosis, but look at you now. Like you may have never have been this healthy, Josh, if you didn't get that crushing news at one point. And that's where God steps in and says, my grace is sufficient, right? When Paul asked to be healed 3 times, God said, my grace is sufficient. It's sufficient. Some people don't get healed on this side of heaven. They don't, but they're fully restored. And we know that in heaven. And that is the hard part of any type of diagnostic, any type of chronic disease, any type of word that's spoken over people is that sometimes God's plans are different. And with cancer culture, the biggest thing that I teach my clients is that this is not about not dying. Okay, it's not about not dying. We're all going to die. And God has chosen the day and the way already. There is nothing that I can do about that. Not for myself, not for anybody else, not for you. We're all going to die. It's about living. That's what this is about. When you pursue quarterbacking cancer in our program, it's not about not dying. It's about living quality life with every day that God has given and already ordained in your life. The person in front of me may not die of cancer. I mean, I don't know. They could go get hit by a bus. That could be the way God chose to have them go out. I don't know. But my whole thing is I don't want people so hyper-focused on not dying that they forget to live. And it's huge in both the allopathic traditional model and the natural. Everybody's trying not to die. And guys, if you do that, you forget to live. You got to live. You got to live. So it's a big part of our program, Jesus, focusing on God, prayer, and also living, that I don't know how you're going out. Maybe cancer, may not be, probably not, but you got to live. And we teach them to do that. So.
All right, Tracey. So yeah, the one of the biggest questions that I have is just what is the biggest lie that you've been told during your career, and how have you overcome that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, the biggest lie is probably the lie that we're not supposed to suffer. And I think suffering, if we can just summarize it, is basically physical discernment, right? It's symptomology. Our body is expressing that there is something wrong. And when we use pharmaceuticals to suppress that, when we cut out organs that are dysfunctional, when we use that allopathic model of quick fix, instant gratification, which is where our whole world is today, then we dumb down our need for Christ, because it's in the suffering where we're reaching up, we're praying, we're asking God why, we're asking God how, we're asking God for help. It really does bring us closer to Jesus, although uncomfortable as it may be. Now, prolonged suffering, I totally understand that is not what we're supposed to do, but we do have stories in the Bible that relate to that. Job is a great example, which is why it is in the Bible. Many people have suffered with disease. Christ shows us that there were people afflicted when he walked the earth. And yes, it was always him, the great physician, who people turned to for the healing. So my point being, we have been fed this lie that symptoms and physical discernment of things that we need to address inside of our body in the form of suffering somehow is bad or wrong, or our body is doing something wrong. And it's truly not. Our body never does anything wrong. It responds to the environment we put it in. If it's a toxic environment loaded with deficiencies, our body's going to be toxic and deficient. If it's full of Jesus and cardio miracle and good food and all the things, then our body is going to be nutrient dense, spiritually sound, and mentally and emotionally healthy. It really has to do with our choice and what we're choosing to keep our eyes on and what we're choosing to embrace in life. So my suggestion is, when people go, I'm not saying that if you're totally hurting that you shouldn't use something to help your suffering, of course, but get to the root. Make sure that whoever you're working with isn't just slapping on a Band-Aid to diminish that suffering. Because it is physical discernment, and suffering gets us to look at ourselves and say, how did I get here? Right? And we need to be able to figure out a way out of that. And that's in all things. So we have lost our accountability and our responsibility as a nation. We are a point at everybody else society today. Like, I'm sick, or, we look at politics and everything is emotionally based and everything is somebody else's fault. And it's like, if we just would look in the mirror and say, what can I do for my own personal accountability? What can I do to be healthier? What can I do to be a contributor? What can I do to spread the gospel? The world would be a better place. So I think suffering, the allopathic's crush on taking away all symptoms and suffering, has led us to this place where people are just, no offense, lazy and complacent in their health, because they know there's a pill for their ill and they don't have to do anything. But later on is when catastrophe strikes, when their body, there's no more drugs, right? There's no more organs to take out. Then what? So my hope is that people embrace the physical symptoms, that they get to the root of their issues, that they embrace good nutrition, they embrace good supplementation, so that we become more preventative than reactive in our health. That's a really big thing.
Love that. I love that so much. And that's one of our biggest messages to people all the time is that, when people start on Cardio Miracle in their 40s or 50s or 60s, that they say, oh, it didn't work in 30 days or whatever. And I tell people, did you get to where you're at in 30 days or in a couple days, or did it take some time, and so that's the thing. And we do have the 60-day money back guarantee that is taken advantage of less than 1% of the time because our product works. We use all whole and organic fruits and vegetables, and we want to make sure that everybody is taking their health into their own hands. And so I love what you're saying. So how can people find you with your quarterback company? I want to know how people can find you online.
My website, it's just TraceyStroup, ND.com. So Tracy with an EY and ND as a naturopathic doctor. They can come on there. The quarterbacking cancer program is available. If you or a loved one are suffering or have been diagnosed, we are happy. My team, I have a great team. They've all been trained. We do everything. We do blood work. We do testing, analysis, get you connected to the right practitioners if needed. We structure everything for you, but it's really about the consistent care that's missing in the cancer culture, even in the natural, and just having a point person who can, call the audible when needed. Something didn't go right, let's change it. My whole household is football fans, so I didn't have a choice but to name it that. So um, I am, along with other functional and integrative oncologists, we're going to be at the Annie Appleseed Project. It's a live event in West Palm Beach, February 26th, 27th, and 28th. All of the integrative and functional oncologists will be there, including lay people that have been recently diagnosed or maybe metastatic. And if people want to join us, they can totally join us. Again, just visit my website and you can find out more about all of our upcoming events.
That's amazing. Yeah, and we'll post that on here as we're talking more about it. And so if there would be like a 90-second kind of overall summary of how you would like to how people would like to remember you on this podcast, what would that be for us?
Well, I hope they remember me as, someone who loves Jesus and puts him first in her life. Someone that is a safe space, no matter what you're walking through, so that they know they can land where we are and have the best possible care. And finally, take some accountability and action in your health today. You can choose today to become someone new in 2 years. And even if it's just starting with Cardio Miracle, it's probably one of the best choices you can make because it's a great product. And I don't say that lightly. I use it in my cancer protocols for stem cell regeneration. And that's when people are coming out of all their treatments and they're fatigued and all of that. It's a great way to help repair the vascular system and to get new and healthy stem cells from A to B, which is what needs to happen when you're recovering. So those would be the things that I hope they remember out of this podcast.
Absolutely. Well, Tracey, thank you so much for your time. We definitely appreciate you, and we want to send as many people your way as we possibly can. And we want everyone to remember that yes, you can take that first step anytime, and I don't believe it's ever too late. I personally, I walked 9.5 million steps last year, and that I have yet to add up this year, 2025. But last year I did 9.5 million, and people are like, wait a minute. And so it's like 23,000 steps a day. And so that's the thing is like, I took these steps to take charge of my health, and we hope that everyone will keep that in mind. So thank you very much for your time today, Tracey. We hope you have a wonderful New Year's celebration and that all goes well with you.
Thank you. You as well. God bless.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.